It was supposed to be our last Halloween together. Me, Kyle, Dante, and Jess, best friends since middle school, now scattered across the country with college acceptances and bad breakups. But somehow, by cosmic luck or bad karma, we all ended up back in Ravenshire, the rotted little Arizona town we'd spent our lives trying to escape. So when flyers started showing up for a one-night-only haunted carnival in the abandoned fairgrounds, the same ones that burned down in '96, of course we went. We were idiots. But we were nostalgic idiots, and that's a dangerous breed. The place looked like it had been summoned from a different time. No vendors, no crowds, just fog, flickering lights, and a midway full of games that looked like they hadn't moved since the Reagan era. The ticket booth was manned by a man in grease paint and a top hat, but his eyes didn't blink, and his voice didn't match his mouth. "Midnight entry," he said, handing us 4 wristbands made of stitched-together skin. "No re-entry, no refunds. Stay on the paths." I thought it was part of the bit. Jess wasn't so sure. "This place gives me cult vibes," she whispered. But Kyle had already sprinted toward the rides. The tilt-a-whirl spun itself. The bumper cars moved without drivers. The Funhouse mirrors didn't show reflections. They showed versions of us that moved out of sync. And then the music started. Not speakers, not recorded. A live band somewhere unseen playing carousel music backwards. At 12:01 a.m., the power surged. The lights blinked red. The smell changed, sweet, like rotting fruit. And then we heard the first scream. It wasn't one of us. It came from deeper in the carnival, from the tunnel of love. We ran toward it, laughing at first, until we saw the girl crawl out. Her legs bent the wrong way, her mouth ripped open at the corners like a zipper. "They're eating each other," she sobbed. "They don't die when you kill them. You have to take out their eyes." Then something yanked her back into the shadows. The games came alive. The strength tester bell rang by itself. The dunk tank clown started coughing up black water. And behind the prize booth, something wearing a vendor's vest turned to look at us with a face made of wriggling maggots. Kyle tried to run. He made it 6 feet before a carny with no jaw tackled him and bit through his calf like it was cotton candy. Jess screamed and threw her vape pen at it. It didn't care. Dante grabbed a sledgehammer from the high striker and swung it like a barbarian. Took its head off in one blow. It stood back up. No head, no hesitation. I grabbed a glow stick from the prize wall and stabbed it into its chest. Nothing. But when I jammed it into its eye, it shrieked and turned to ash. Jess puked. Dante whispered, "This is why I don't go out on Halloween." And the lights around us blinked red again. Then every ride stopped moving. The fog rolled in thicker, and the speakers overhead crackled to life. A voice, smooth like a ringmaster's but soaked in malice.
"Ladies and gentlemen, the final performance is about to begin. All exits are now sealed. Enjoy the bloodbath."
The Ferris wheel caught fire. The clowns emerged from the funhouse with sharpened teeth and hands full of meat. A zombie in a varsity jacket climbed out of the corndog fryer, still sizzling, and from the haunted house at the far end of the park, something huge started to move. Something with too many mouths and a ticket stub stuck to its forehead. We didn't wait. We ran toward the food court, toward the maintenance tunnels, anywhere but there, and just as we reached the gates, we saw them closed by themselves, with iron bars that hadn't been there before. Jess looked at me. "You have a plan, right?" I said nothing. Because the truth is, I remembered this place. My sister vanished here in '96, and I just realized we're not here to escape. We're here to finish what she started. The tunnels weren't on any map. Not Google, not the tourist brochures. Not even the blueprint I'd dug up years ago when I first started digging into what happened to my sister. But they were there, beneath the carnival, like veins under bruised skin, branching off in every direction. We found the entrance behind the cotton candy booth, half buried under rotting hay and the torn remains of a mascot costume with Lenny the Laughing Llama embroidered across the chest. It reeked of something between sulfur and wet meat. Jess didn't hesitate. She yanked open the hatch, climbed down the rusted ladder, and vanished into darkness. Dante followed, swinging the sledgehammer over his shoulder like a warlord. I was the last in. Behind me, the carnival had turned into a hellscape. Burning rides, blood-slick walkways, and undead carnies tearing through what was left of the crowd. Kyle was already gone. His screams had faded 10 minutes ago, replaced by wet crunches and bone snaps. I told myself he was dead. Easier than the alternative. The tunnels were worse than I remembered, because somehow I had been here before. It hit me in flashes. A smell, a flicker of color, the scratch marks in the walls. I remembered running through here at 9 years old, holding my sister's hand as something chased us through the dark. I remembered her shoving me into a vent and whispering, "Don't look back, no matter what you hear me say." I didn't look back. I never saw her again. And now, I was back in the maze that took her, older, but still just as afraid. The tunnels pulsed with dim, red emergency lights. Every 30 feet, a speaker embedded in the wall hissed carnival announcements. "Welcome guests! Hot dogs half price! The dead do not expire!" The walls were lined with posters for attractions that didn't exist. Freaks of the Forgotten, the mirror maze that bites back, Zombeats, a live dining experience. Every so often, we passed bodies, half-eaten, half-melted, some still twitching with dying nerves. One wore a staff hoodie with the face torn off. Jess whispered, "They're changing the layout behind us." I checked. She was right. The ladder we'd come down was gone. In its place, a concrete wall. No seams, no markings. Like it had always been there. The carnival didn't want us leaving. Dante kicked open a side door labeled Maintenance. Inside, a small control room with cracked monitors. One still worked. It showed a grainy camera feed of the carnival entrance before everything went to hell. I saw myself, 9 years old, holding my sister's hand, running toward the gate. I froze. "That's not possible," I whispered. Jess rewound it, replayed it, same moment. Then it glitched, and the image changed. Now I was alone, my sister was gone, and behind me, something tall, pale, wearing a balloon vendor's vest. It leaned toward the camera and whispered something, but there was no audio. The feed went dead. Jess looked at me. "This isn't a carnival. It's a trap. It feeds on Halloween night." Then the floor shook. A metallic groan echoed through the tunnel. Somewhere above us, the roller coaster derailed and tore through the crowd like a flaming skeleton. Screams filtered down through the vents. We kept moving, turned a corner, and found a mural, painted in blood. It showed 4 figures standing around a bonfire made of bones. One held a journal, one held a sledgehammer, one had no face, and one was me, standing in the center, flames eating my skin. "This was painted before we got here," Jess said. "You're not just in the carnival, you're part of it." I didn't have time to respond. Something growled behind us. Wet, ragged, and close. We ran. Took a left, then another. Lights flickered. Air turned thick. We hit a dead end, but not really. A door marked staff only, blinked into existence like a loading screen. We pushed through. Inside, a locker room. Blood everywhere. Lockers with names scratched into them. Jess, Dante, me. Mine was already open. Inside, A Polaroid photo of my sister, wearing clown makeup, holding a knife. Her eyes were black holes. The lights went out. Something screamed, not close, inside the room. I spun. Jess was gone. Dante screamed, swinging the hammer at shadows. One of the lockers flew open and something fell out. A head, Kyle's, still mouthing the word, "Run." Then the clown stepped out of the dark, 8 feet tall, stitched face, red suit made of torn carnival prizes. No feet, just dragging limbs and stained roller skates. It rolled toward Dante and drove a bone-carved horn straight through his chest. He didn't scream, just looked at me and said, "Don't make the same mistake twice." Then it ripped him in half. I ran, through the door, through the black, back into the blood tunnels. Jess was there, standing, wide-eyed, whispering to herself. "They said they won't kill me if I bring them you." Her voice wasn't her voice. It was layered, like 4 people were speaking through her mouth. "You're the one who got away. They want the set complete." I backed up. She raised a knife, made from a broken Funhouse mirror. "Don't make me do this," she sobbed. "Please, just let them have you." Then she lunged. I ducked, grabbed a broken pipe, slammed it into her knee. She crumpled. I ran. I didn't look back. Not again. The tunnel opened into a massive underground chamber. An ossuary built from ride parts and bones. In the center, a carousel. Still spinning, still playing music. But each horse was a person, twisted, gagged, skinned, screaming with no mouths. I heard the voice again, the ringmaster. "Final round! Main event! The runaway returns!" A spotlight hit me. Something rose from beneath the carousel. Something stitched from everything I feared. My sister's face, Kyle's scream, Dante's blood, Jess's betrayal, and underneath it all, the balloon vendor. "It's time to finish the ride," it said. And the carousel began to spin faster and faster, and I finally remembered what happened in '96. I had pushed her, I had left her, and the carnival didn't kill her. It changed her. And now it wanted to change me. I don't know how I survived the carousel. Maybe I didn't. Maybe everything after is just the dream of something being digested slowly in the dark. But I remember the scream. Not from me, from the ride itself, like it realized I wasn't supposed to be there, or that I remembered too much. The spotlight burst. The horses stopped spinning, and for a second, the entire chamber blinked out of existence. When I opened my eyes, I was standing on the midway again. No tunnels, no fire, no blood. The carnival looked normal. Families laughing, children with cotton candy, barkers shouting over game booths. The sun was still out. But I knew it wasn't real. The air was too still. The sky didn't move, and everyone around me was wearing the same smile. Literally, the same smile, like it'd been carved and pasted on. I saw a mirror hanging by the corn dog stand and walked straight to it. My reflection blinked a second after I did. Then it smiled, wide, red, and wrong, and pointed. I turned. Behind me, Jess stood in line for the Ferris wheel, holding a red balloon. She was 7 years old. So was I. A voice boomed from the speakers overhead. "The performance repeats until the right sacrifice is made." And suddenly I got it. This wasn't just a haunted carnival. It was a loop, a meat grinder. Every Halloween, It pulled people in. Those who wandered too close, who remembered too much, and ran them through the ride. Some were killed. Some were changed. Some were forced to watch. I watched myself get on the Ferris wheel with my sister. She was giggling. I looked terrified. The ride spun once, twice, then stopped at the top. The wind howled. Lightning cracked. And the wheel started spinning backward. Faster. The cars ripped loose. People flew. My younger self screamed. The car snapped free and plummeted. Right before it hit the ground, the scene blinked. Reset. We were in line again. Same laugh, same balloon, same death. I watched it happen 5 times before I turned away. This carnival wasn't just haunted. It was haunted by us. I ran past the games, past the clown booths, past the popcorn stand that smelled like burning flesh. Everywhere I went, I saw memories. My mom arguing with my dad. The day we got the call about my sister. The first time I had a nightmare about the balloon vendor. They weren't scenes. They were living things, growing like tumors in the air. One of them lunged at me. My dad, foaming at the mouth, eyes hollow, skin sloughing off in sheets. I ducked into the funhouse. That was a mistake. The mirrors weren't glass anymore. They were eyes, wet, blinking and watching. One cracked open and something crawled through. A child-sized clown with no arms, just dozens of tiny mouths along its ribs. It whispered, "You remember too much. That makes you bait." I grabbed a pipe and smashed the mirror. It screamed and I ran again. The corridors shifted. The mirrors changed. Now they showed me, but not me. One version had no face. One was laughing hysterically. One was eating Dante's leg. "You were always meant to come back," they said in unison. "The ride doesn't end until you're part of it." I broke through the last mirror and fell straight into the roller coaster loading bay. It was nighttime again. The park was on fire again. The world had reset. But now I was alone. No Jess, no Dante, just me and the ringing sound of carnival music played backward. Then the balloon vendor stepped into the light, 8 feet tall, head tilted. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. He held something in his hands. My sister's face, stretched and tanned like leather. Her eyes still blinked. "Trade," he said. "You for her, soul for soul." I didn't move. Couldn't. He reached up and pressed the mask against my face. It stuck. It burned. I screamed. And suddenly I saw everything. Hundreds of loops, thousands of victims, all of them trapped here because someone broke the wrong rule, took the wrong turn, looked behind the curtain. I saw every person who'd vanished on Halloween in Ravenshire over the last 30 years. All still here, all part of the show. Then the mask fell off. I gasped, looked down. My skin was cracking. My fingers were elongating. I was changing, becoming like them, unless I stopped it. I looked around the loading bay and saw it. Dante's sledgehammer, half buried in the floor. I grabbed it, walked to the control booth, and hit the main power switch. The entire park went dark. The music stopped. The screaming paused. Everything froze. And then the voice came back. "Final loop initiated." The gates exploded open. The sky turned red, and all the attractions began to bleed. Literally, the Ferris wheel poured black sludge. The carousel cracked open, spilling guts. The midway booths tore themselves apart like living things in agony. And in the center of it all, rising from the funhouse, came the true master of the carnival. Not a clown, not a ghost, a god. A stitched-together amalgamation of everything left behind. Memories, blood, bones, laughter, screams. It had no name, only a purpose. To perform, forever, and I was its next act. The god of the carnival didn't roar, didn't scream, didn't even move. It stood there, towering over the smoldering remains of the rides, made of stitched attractions and pulsing memories, watching me, with hundreds of eyes made from the faces of everyone it had consumed. Kyle, Dante, my sister, and now Jess. Eyes hollow, body twitching, kneeling at its feet like a puppet waiting for orders. The air vibrated with silent commands. The god didn't speak in words. It spoke in urgency. My bones ached with it. My blood boiled. The sledgehammer trembled in my grip, begging to be dropped, to surrender, to join. I fought it, dug my heels into the blackened concrete as the midway buckled beneath me, and the carnival tried to digest itself. Booths caved in. Rides exploded in flashes of crimson flame. The sky overhead wasn't sky anymore. It was audience. Rows and rows of shadowy faces, clapping, silent, expectant, like they were waiting for a final bow. The ringmaster's voice echoed again, not from speakers, but from inside my head. Final act. One soul leaves. One soul remains. Jess rose, eyes wide, face blank. Her voice came out in two layers, hers and someone else's. If you kill me, it ends. I stepped forward, heart pounding. Who said anything about killing you? I lifted the hammer and swung, not at her, but at the god's roots, its base, the rotten pile of stitched flesh and iron that held it to this place. The first strike sent a ripple through the world. The second made the lights stutter. The third, it screamed. Not through mouths, through everything. The sky shrieked. The ground buckled. The carousel spun backwards so fast it threw sparks and teeth. Jess fell to her knees, clutching her head, crying in voices that weren't hers. I kept swinging, over and over. Blood sprayed, not red but carnival-colored, pink and teal and glittery, like melted prizes. The god collapsed an inch, another, and then it fought back. From its body emerged clowns, but not men in costumes. These were raw. Humanoid shapes with rubbery limbs and endless mouths. They moved like insects. One leapt at me. I swung midair and shattered its head like porcelain. Another bit into my shoulder, teeth like broken tickets. I headbutted it, grabbed its face, and shoved it into the Ferris wheel's burning wreckage. They kept coming, but for the first time, I realized they could be killed, not just stalled, not just delayed, destroyed. If I hit hard enough, if I didn't stop. So I didn't. I fought my way up the god's leg, climbing a ladder made of bones and old ride chains. It didn't try to stop me. It watched, curious, like it hadn't seen this part of the show before. At the top, I reached what used to be its heart, a glass case. Inside, barely breathing, was a little girl, my sister. Not her body, her soul, frozen in time. Eyes wide, mouth open like she'd been screaming for years. This was its power source, the memory it fed on. I smashed the glass. The god screamed. Its limbs flailed. The carnival imploded. I grabbed her hand, and suddenly I was 9 again, holding her, running through the crowd, the real memory. She turned to me and said, "You have to let me go this time." I shook my head. "No, I came back for you." She smiled, then ended. I looked down at the god, at the carnival, at the nightmare eating itself, and I jumped. We fell together, through the air, through memory, through time, hit the ground in a crash of bone and ash. Everything went white. And then I woke up, alone. Daylight, sirens, fire trucks, police tape. I was lying on the cracked pavement outside the fairgrounds. A single note was pinned to my chest, burned around the edges. It read, "Final performance complete. Cast reset. Show to begin again next Halloween." They found no other bodies, no rides, no evidence the carnival had ever been rebuilt. Just me, covered in ash, clutching a sledgehammer and an old balloon. Jess was never found. Neither was Kyle, or Dante, or my sister. But sometimes, when the sun sets just right on Halloween night, I hear the music again. Distant, backward, waiting. And this time, I know better than to go near. But I keep dreaming. And in those dreams, the audience always starts clapping, because deep down, I know the truth. The carnival never ends. Not for us, not for the ones who remember. The ride just resets.